Hey, welcome to Energy Matters Live. I'm Tim Echols, my co-host, Casey Boyce. Casey, how's it going?
Hey, I'm good, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing great, Casey. We're going to talk about some disruptive technologies today. In the first segment, we had Mike Goldberg on, and he's building a container house down on Tybee Island. And I had a chance to take a look at that house, shoot photos. So if our listeners are interested, just check my Twitter feed at Tim Eccles and you'll see more about that. But Casey, disruptive technologies, that's not a new thing, is it?
No, I mean, it's been around for a while, right? And these are technologies that fundamentally change the way that we live, our health, the way that business is done, things like that.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about a number of them. And I want to start the show by saying that I was on Tybee Island over the weekend. I had a meeting with the mayor talking about sustainability, getting more solar down there, getting some electric vehicle chargers. They don't have any.
Oh, that'll be
Um,
great.
and I met with Nick, one of the city councilmen from Savannah. So it was a very productive time. One of the things I'm working on, Casey, down there is the Marine Science Center and
Mhm.
helping them with their renewable energy. But Casey, as I have not spent much time on Tybee Island, and as I spent 3 days down there over the weekend, I learned a lot about the island. That there was an army fort at the north end of the island, Fort Scriven,
Mhm.
um, for many years, phased out after World War II. But Tybee Island at one time, Casey, was a premier resort rivaling Cape May, New Jersey, and Ocean City, Maryland. I bet you didn't know that.
I did not. That's very interesting.
And Casey, what put Tybee on the map was a 17-mile railroad track that ran from Savannah to the
Ah,
island and then down to the south end of the island with 5 stops. And it essentially connected to the central of Georgia system that was all over the southeast and allowed people to make Tybee their connection, essentially, and go there by train.
so a
And
lot easier to
Casey,
get to than some of the other islands. Yeah.
it was really easy to get to. Now, at this time, Florida hadn't really been developed. The Flagler Railroad was in process, and that's that
Mhm.
railroad that went all the way to Key West. Uh, but so Tybee became not just a place to go and sunbathe. That's not really what people did back then. I mean, they went to this resort. I mean, Casey, there were 1,800 sea bath changing rooms. Sea
That's
bath changing
incredible.
rooms. So if you arrived on the train, you would rent a sea bathroom. You would change, leave your stuff there, go enjoy the day, and then you would catch the train back maybe to Savannah or some other place in Georgia
Huh.
that day. And so you couldn't change on the train. And so if you're there just for the day, it's not like you can just go in a public restroom. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of people on the weekend. And then they had these dance pavilions that served as picnic pavilions in the daytime. And then dancing, I'm talking formal chaperone type dancing, um, 3 mammoth pavilions with named big bands from across America coming in on the weekends. They
Wow.
had multiple opulent hotels. But Casey, along came the Model T in 1908, the Model A in 1903, the Model T in 1908, and then people wanted to build roads. And when they built that road, they felt like, well, that's going to take care of it. That's all we need. And within 10 years, the train had been shut down, and it was downhill ever since
Huh.
for Tybee. So that train had such an important role in their success. And I mean, it's not just Tybee Island that was impacted by the invention of the automobile. Obviously, uh, rail service all over was disrupted. But
Sure.
Casey, as we've kind of talked through this, what are go kick us off with another technology in the past that has been substantially disruptive.
Yeah, I'm going to go to one that's near and dear to our hearts, and hopefully our listeners too, since they're tuning into this show. But the grid, the largest machine in the world, really. And think about what life was like before the electric grid came into place. So if you owned a manufacturing company, you had to be somewhere near water so that you could harness the power of water to turn a water wheel and work all of your machinery. So you think about like Lowell, Massachusetts was a place where they did that. If you're at home, you might have gas light, you might be using candles, but not really great quality light. And of course, they put off smoke and indoor air quality hazards. All of the conveniences that we think of today, people didn't have them. Was recently reading about, the ice delivery folks, right? They would come and bring blocks of ice even during the summertime and put them in people's refrigerators, right? So that people could, quote unquote refrigerators right at that point. So, all of these things really changed once you had the centralized, way of generating and transmitting power, and you could locate your factory wherever. And you could flip a switch and have the lights come on without any indoor pollution. You could keep your food cold. You could keep vaccines cold. All of these things transformed because of the grid. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, it's got to be the electrification of America. I think if you think about the 20th century, it's probably the greatest the greatest impact, and still having an impact worldwide. Not everybody, Casey, has electricity in the world. There's still places where they ration power. Plenty of
Absolutely. Well, when my wife was in the Peace Corps on a small South Pacific island, I was in charge of the utility, and I use that word very loosely. The school that she taught at had a diesel generator that fired up. I turned it on as it started to get dark, and it provided light for the kids to do homework. And then when they went to bed, I turned it off. And that was pretty much the only electricity on the island. And everyone else used lamps and, oil lamps and things like that. It was a very different way of life.
A friend of mine, Alden Hathaway, I think you know him. He's been on our show quite a few times. They have a charity called Solar Lights for Africa, and they have gone all over Africa targeting really orphanages and putting solar on there with some batteries and essentially giving them evening lights, for the first time. And Casey, it increases human productivity if you have a light to work
Absolutely.
by, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, what do you think's next, Tim? What other disruptive innovations come top of mind to you?
The airplane, I think, has been disruptive to steamships, to other forms of transportation, to trains, to cars. Certainly has had a significant role in military history. You think about just World War I, World War II, and whether it's German dominance, because maybe they had superior planes, initially, and just enabling us to fly anywhere in the world, and to me, it's done more for international commerce probably than anything.
Yeah, and even domestic. I mean, back when I was able to travel, it always astounded me when I was able to do, 2 meetings in different cities in the course of a day, right? I mean, you start in Atlanta, you fly somewhere, do your meeting, fly somewhere else, and then get home. And it's a long day on the road, but the fact that you can do it's pretty astounding.
Yeah, what do you think of the next one, Casey?
We were talking a little bit before we went live here. Telecom, I think, is a huge change, and particularly now when all of us are not traveling due to COVID, the fact that not only can we pick up the phone and talk to one another over long distances, pretty much anywhere on the world, but the fact that we also have computers enabling us to do these live streaming like we're doing, right now, for folks to stream the radio show, for students to be in school despite not being able to be there in person. I think about what would have happened if the pandemic had hit, when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s. And it would have been very different than it is today. So, I think, even just in the course of my lifetime, the telecommunications infrastructure and improvements has really been transformative the way that we live and the way that we do commerce.
I know that this is probably going to be thought silly by some, but it's one of my favorite inventions of all time. It's the plumbing P-trap, right?
Uh-oh.
That pipe that blocks sewer gas from coming back into your house, and it essentially was probably the most important thing about indoor plumbing. If we think about how much we love indoor plumbing, right?
Be a lot less pleasant otherwise, right?
Yeah. So I think in a way, that's disruptive because you've gone from an outhouse, right, to every single, not every single home, but because there are still places, believe it or not, where they don't have, indoor plumbing. But it certainly has been an invention that many people have benefited from, and in terms of hygiene and health.
For sure.
And I think we know even more with COVID about that now, about how important that is. Well, Casey, always a lot to talk about with you.
Absolutely.
And hey, send us a note. I'm at Tim Echols.
I'm at Casey Boyce.
About your favorite disruptive technology and why. And catch us for another segment, or always go to WGAUradio.com and listen live, or ask your favorite podcast location to give you Energy Matters with Commissioner Echols. I'm Tim Echols. He's Casey Boyce. You're listening to Energy Matters. Well, Casey, and to everybody in our audience, thanks for catching us today. Casey, I do want to talk more with our audience just about this container home that Mike Goldberg
sounds fascinating.
Was building. He put these things up, I would say, about 25 feet off the ground. So they're elevated like a beach home, so that you can park a car or truck underneath it. But it's pretty cool. So anyway, Casey, great being with you today. Stay safe, and we'll look forward to catching you next time.
Sounds good. Take care, Tim.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.